My name is Bill Gallman. I'm the LOLA president. It's my second year as president. I've been on the board for 6 years now. I've been officiating for about 25 or 26 years. Most of that was up in Shreveport. And I'll go ahead and introduce the other board members here. Our vice president is Dustin. Dustin, why don't you unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Dustin. I've been officiating lacrosse for approximately 13 years. I'm the vice president of our association, also the assigner of officials and head trainer. Looking forward to a great 2021 season.
Great. And Glenn, up in Shreveport?
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Glenn Colvin. This is my 6th year officiating lacrosse, and I'm the secretary on the LOLA board, and also looking forward to a great season.
Great, thanks. All right, Jamie?
Yeah, Jamie Poncetti, native New Orleanian, but I've been officiating for about 18 years. Been around lacrosse for most of my life, my adult life, and I'm looking forward to a good season.
Okay, Brian Landry is our at-large. I don't see him checked in quite. Is he in? He is in? Okay,
yes,
Brian.
Bill.
Okay, there you are. All right.
I'm Brian Landry. It's my it is actually entering into my 25th year of officiating lacrosse, and I am out of Shreveport.
All right, good. And Lux?
Good morning, everybody. Lux, I'm the chief referee, lifetime lacrosse player, and for about 20 years refereeing.
Okay, we will follow the agenda. I sent the agenda out this morning. The first thing I wanted to talk about is our relationship with the league. LOLA was birthed in 2009 with the mission statement of serving the Louisiana High School Lacrosse League, and this is our 12th season. And I will announce that for the 12th consecutive year, we do have the contract to assign and work the LHSLL season games, and that contract has been renewed. I will not say that it hasn't been contentious the last 2 years. Many of you know that there is another Lacrosse Officials Association based primarily in New Orleans that began as an organization which focused on training officials to do youth games primarily in the New Orleans area, southern Mississippi, southern Louisiana. Before 2018, we had a very amicable and cooperative relationship with that group. And many of our members were members of this youth organization and did youth tournaments and youth games. I won't rehash all of the details. It's too long to tell the whole story, but suffice it to say that in the spring of 2018, that relationship soured, and Mid-South would no longer allow our members to be members of their organization, and they wouldn't allow their members to be members of ours. And some of the experienced LOLA officials in the New Orleans area opted to choose to work only with Mid-South and remove themselves from the pool of officials that we had to cover games. And they stopped working with us. And they actually began to compete with us or saw themselves as competitors. Effectively, this was not good for us. It hurt us and diminished the size of the pool of officials that were available to our signer to work the LHSLL league games. This was not unnoticed by the teams or the league, and the teams and the coaches and the VMRs and the presidents of all the teams, they were puzzled and couldn't understand what is going on with these officials that can't get along with one another. They didn't know the whole background or all of the details of everything, but they were puzzled, and they really wanted there to be us to work out something to where we could get back to have a greater pool size of qualified officials to work their games. With a smaller pool of officials, that led to our assigner having to assign people out of the geographic area who were experienced enough to do certain games, and teams were having to pay increased travel. A lot of these teams, as you know, they're not awash with cash, and one of their big expenses is paying the officials, and additional travel was burdensome to some of them. And they still to this day don't understand it fully, but they really want it fixed and want us to work together. Now, last season and this season, there have been various proposals within the league to force an increase in size of the pool of officials. This year at the October meeting, there was a proposal put forth by some of the league members to allow teams to individually contract with any lacrosse officials association that if they wanted to, be it us, be it Mid-South, be it North Texas and Dallas, be it Houston, be it whoever they wanted. Any team could contract their home games with any LOA. Now, that clearly was not something that we were in favor of, and we spent hours and hours politicking and talking, and suffice it to say that proposal was ultimately rejected by the league, fortunately for us. But that decision wasn't taken until mid-January. Things were just kind of stormy there for a while, but I think it's all settled out. We have the contract, and our assigner is tasked with assigning all of the league's games. Now, make no mistake about it, the league does not like this continuing division among the officials, and they still don't understand why that there are on some Saturdays experienced officials sitting idle when there's a busy schedule and they're having to pay travel from out of their geographic area to get a game covered. What they want the best crews on their games, the appropriate crews on their games with the least amount of travel. Now that leads me into item number 3 on our agenda, potential youth and Mississippi League officiating opportunities. Over the past 3 years, I have spent many, many hours, and the board has spent a lot of time discussing this and working on this. I have spent many hours communicating with the Mid-South leadership, trying to mend fences, put the past behind us, and get us back on cooperative terms, and get back to at least working together like we did prior to 2018. Meaningful cooperation did not materialize last year. But this year, there has been a change of attitude and a change of policy. We continue to talk with their leadership, and it might be because of the new Mississippi League that popped up. You may know that Mississippi now has the Mississippi Scholastic Lacrosse Association. I think right now it's composed of 6 teams. 3 of them were formerly LHSLL teams that we covered. That's Ocean Springs, St. Stanislaus, and Southern Elite, all based out of Southern Mississippi. There are 2 teams in Jackson, and we have covered some of their games in the last couple of seasons. And there's 1 team in Oxford. So at least for their inaugural year, they have 6 teams playing in this Mississippi League. We were asked by that league to submit a proposal to do their officiating, which we did. We basically propose identical terms that we officiate with the Louisiana League in terms of game pay and travel. We also, though, knowing that it might be a stretch for us to be sending people routinely to mid and northern Mississippi, that we requested that each team supply us with the names of two potential officials that we would train at our expense to get them up and running, and perhaps in the future, when they got big enough and could stand on their own feet, start their own Lacrosse Officials Association in Mississippi. For whatever reason, though, the Mississippi Group League chose to award that contract to the Mid-South Group, based out of New Orleans. So we have, as you know, there are some guys who are on the call now who are located in southern Mississippi and in southern Alabama. And we have worked out a cooperative agreement with the Mid-South leadership. We're going to try this out and try to show that we can work cooperatively. And our assigners are agreeing to work together to assign qualified officials where it's best for the sport in terms of geography, i.e. travel, and experience level. So if we have idle LOLA members in southern Mississippi who don't have a LOLA assignment for an LHSLL game, and they're not otherwise, and they're available in Arbiter, they may be assigned to work a Mississippi High School League game, perhaps with other LOLA members, perhaps with a qualified Mid-South member. We'll see. None of that schedule has been made yet. All the rules, the pay, and the travel will all be the same. But it only makes sense, though, if we have idle qualified officials in Ocean Springs, let's say, or in that geographical area, and there is an Ocean Springs Oxford game in that Mississippi League. And again, our LOLA members who are in that area are not busy working a league game, one of our league games. Well, it makes sense for them to do a game right down the street than to get in a car and drive to Baton Rouge or New Orleans, and et cetera. Likewise, idle members who are in the southern Louisiana area may be tapped for youth league games or tournaments, just like we did in the past. I know last year, before 2018, I would occasionally work these all-day youth tournaments, and I enjoyed doing that. And we hope to have that opportunity open back up, depending on how the schedules all work out. Now, the assignments will come from the LOLA assigner. They'll come from Dustin. They won't come from Mid-South, and you'll be contacted about any of that before it happens. No one is obligated to work non-LHSLL games. No one is obligated to work youth games or youth tournaments. You're not obligated to work a Mississippi game if you don't want to, if you have a reason not to. If you choose, though, to make yourself not available to work youth or Mississippi games, then you just need to opt out and contact Dustin and let him know you don't want to do youth games and you don't want to do anything in Mississippi. I'm assuming that our officials in southern Mississippi and southern Alabama will be happy to work a game and not have to drive 3 or 4 hours to Lafayette to do a game. But we'll see. This is a we'll see type of thing. We are doing this to see if we can't build some trust and move forward and get back together and cooperate rather than compete. It doesn't make any sense for me to see competition between lacrosse officials associations that are on top of each other in a same area. It makes sense for standalone LOAs, like I said, in Mississippi, or just like how we were birthed. We came out of the Southwest Lacrosse Association, Officials Association, back in 2009. We were all members of the Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas giant LOA. As a matter of fact, Brian Landry was the president of that thing for a while, and that was a huge area. But as it got so big, it made sense for them to break off and for us to break off. And finally, it has made sense for the Southwest Lacrosse Officials Association to break into, I think they have 4 in Texas now, whereas they used to just have 1. But each of those have a couple of hundred officials in it. We're sitting here, between 45 and 50 or so officials. And if we added the Mid-South people into our group, we would probably be approaching 180 to 100, something like that. I don't know what exactly their numbers are. But with that number of officials, it doesn't make sense to fragment into multiple different associations. That's my personal opinion on that. All right, so that's where we are with that. And the next thing that we'll talk about are the rule waivers. Just as a little bit of history, prior to last year's season, the league, they pushed to adopt NCAA rules with Texas waivers. That passed quickly in June of 2019 without a whole lot of discussion. In October of 2019, we were able to persuade them to go back to NFHS, that it was just in the best interest for the sport in our area to stick with the high school rules. But they did want one rule waiver, and that's this 30-second clearing count. When that was first proposed, it just off the top of my head, it sounded like, okay, we can probably make that work. Well, that turned out to be a can of worms, as we discovered when we tried to rewrite the rules and all of the places where the 2010 clearing count is in. Suffice it to say, we have changed that, and we're going back to the 2010 clearing count as written in the rule book for this upcoming season. And now I'll turn it over to Colonel Luxian to talk to us about that rule waiver and that removal of that rule waiver and the minor existing rule waivers that we'll have in place for 2021.
So first off, thank you to Bill and the board on your persistence and patience on dealing through all these issues. So as Bill pointed out, we're back to basic follow the frickin' rule book. And we did that in the league in the last phases of this. The thing we were able to stand on, so we're asking for your help, is it's easier for us to train, for you to understand all the U.S. lacrosse resources are involved around the rule book, the NFHS rule book. And so that helps save the day. But if you don't know the rules, you're going to cause us some more problems and obviously not do as well in the field. Okay, let me get over to where you can find the rule waivers and what I'll get into next, the COVID-19 guidelines. So I'm going to go present my screen here. Okay, so when you sign into Arbiter, this is where you come in. Obviously, Dustin will be very happy that you filled out all your blocks. You pick up your schedule here as the season goes on. But if you go over here to lists, this little list, and look underneath forms, you will see, travel matrix, some checklists for games. But these two middle ones here are the rule waivers and the guidelines. So selecting the rule waivers for this year. Open those up. It opened another box for me. And I will open that up. Hopefully you can see it. Let me change the view. All right, so here is the 2021 rule waivers. It's based on the 2020 rule book, which is the rule book that's in place for this season, with no updates other than we're going to talk some COVID changes, but everything it remains the same as previous years, with the field and the goal. And there's a reference here to the situation, but basically the issues that are in the rule book are that center line, going all the way through the center logo. We'll do the best we can with what's there on the field, and we will play based on the local conditions. If a field is slightly skinnier, slightly wider, a little bit long, when you go over to Florida, the Daphne areas, they have goalposts right there. Work with the coach to try to make it as safe as possible, but we're going to play. We're going to play the fields as they exist. Obviously, if there's no lines and things like that, got to get it on and get some of that stuff on the field. But if there's issues, play the game, figure out how to get that game in, and then if there's major issues, bring it to Bill, myself, or anyone on the board, and we'll talk with the league to get anything adjusted. This has not been a problem. So that's the field modification. Goals, basically, we're looking for any manufactured goal, primarily, metal. But again, we're looking for just a legal goal. You'll see some goals are a little bit bent. We're gonna play with them, and alternate sides of the field. So in the end it'll be the best. If it's really bad shape, talk to the coach about getting it fixed. Again, pass it to us, let us know, and then we'll turn it over to the league to have discussions. But we're going to play the goals as they exist. So shouldn't be any big deals there. That's what we have been doing for the last, since I've been here, 8 to 10 years. All right, let me close that down, go back in. Hopefully there's no questions on the waivers. If there are, throw a note in the chat box and I'll try to grab those. So moving to probably what's much more important is our health and the health of the players and coaches and everybody. I've opened up in that same area, the COVID guidelines. I would recommend that you print these things out and read through them. And if you need to have them on the field, bring them to your games. That's probably a good thing. Just overall, what we're looking for is a safe condition. If you're not, the first part here is about accepting games. If you have a high temperature, all the CDC things that we've been hearing, loss of smell, loss of taste, high temperature, shortness of breath, fatigue, any of the symptoms that of a possible COVID, don't bring it to the game. Don't bring it and affect everybody and really put everybody else at risk and put lacrosse games at risk. Just let Dustin know you have an issue, and he will scramble to fill out that game. So Bill, we have a medical background here, so Bill helped me out a little bit on the COVID, the latest CDC. This could change throughout the season on CDC guidelines. But if you do test positive for COVID-19, basically isolate yourself. This is the current rules, 10 days, basically no assignments. So it's important, again, to be talking to Dustin and what's going on, that you got the COVID, and when your day started and when it could potentially end. Anybody who's been in close contact with an affected person. So again, there's that changes according to the CDC. So kind of look at what that is. Trust your doctors. I know up at Mississippi State, they use that, whatever that changing scale is defined by CDC. It doesn't mean that you just pass by an affected person, that's considered close contact. There's a certain time considerations and things like that around that. But if you do, then it's, again, we want to quarantine or not to take any game assignments for 10 days or 7 days with a negative test. Okay. Boyd, you raised your hand for some reason? No? Okay. So that's the general health and feeling going into a game, all right? And all the way up to game time, if you have those issues, it is better to get yourself removed and isolated than to try to pull off the game and be a hero, because you're being exactly the opposite. Ours, the referee for any game, you're supposed to do this all the time anyway. You're doing it to check the schedule, the field, any changes associated with the game. Are there anything that affects how this game will be played? What you need to add to that discussion is there any provisions from that home school for the play of that game, how the arrival procedures, where they want you, any other provisions that school might have in place for that game. We'll do what we can to follow all those provisions so that game can be played. Masking, and I think most of what you're going to see should cover everything. But the goal is follow whatever the school has. The referees are to make sure you get that information from the coaches 72 hours before the game so you can distribute that to your crew. And it also gives Dustin some time if there's some issues to work out any problems. All right, so overall, kind of the overall guideline is CDC, social distancing to the maximum extent possible. Obviously, you're running up and down the field. You're going to come in close contact with kids for short periods of time, but you can stay away from them. And 6 feet is not necessarily the hardest thing to maintain on the field. And just don't be right up against them all the time. So at arrival at the site, there are referees responsible, obviously, for all normal getting together. Face mask, standard mask or a gaiter. Gaiters work really well. It's supposed to be 2-ply to be able to pull up when you're having your discussions pre-game in the parking lot. You can do this any number of ways. Ours out there for a game, you can have a conversation ahead of time. You can meet off-site. You can meet in the parking lot like we always do on the field and provide yourself a little bit more distance than normal. Do your social distancing. But it's up to you, up to the R, how he wants to manage that. Okay, what's going to change a little bit is all the meetings and things that we tend to have on the field. Apply the rule of one-on-one. So a coach having a conversation with a referee, again, we want those to be one-on-one. In a contentious situation, obviously, where there's a problem and you need your supporting cast with you, then, the other referees just make sure you're in hearing distance, but try to stay 6 feet apart and provide that social distancing. Face masks will be worn from the parking lot. So when you finish your pregame and walk onto the field, officials come on together. The benches just in the field setup will be extended, all the way down into really the attack zone, about another 10 yards, to try to provide more distance for the teams and the players on those teams to be able to move down the sideline further. Let's see. The referee will certify the coach, the umpire, and field judge kind of remain what it says here is opposite side of the field. The idea there is you're both watching the field while the referee's working with the coaches. Keep your eyes on the field while everything else is going on. Let's see, the face-off instruction will be just with the referee, with one player from each team or a coach from each team to come out and talk about face-offs. Stick checks will be done still where you can't get that mask up, and then again try to maintain that physical distancing to the maximum extent possible as we go through those stick checks. You can also bring a little small hand sanitizer to clean your hands off after, and some people, if you want to have gloves or wear gloves, then feel free to do that. Any conferences with the table, again, keep everybody comfortable and safe. Try to maintain that 6 foot social distancing and masks around the table during those discussions. Coin toss, same thing, 1-on-1. So one player, one captain, and the referee doing the coin toss together. Other referees stay well outside of 6 yards, and then any other players, captains, can come in and just stay back away from the actual coin toss. So you don't have to have just one captain for a team, but the one captain that's part of the coin toss, they'll bring in closer together. All right, the biggest issue or change is the league is comfortable, and both NCAA, NIOLA, thanks Rob Wyman, Texas, Connecticut, I've taken a bunch of those, and basically they all say the same thing. I just provided a little bit more clarification on what the face-off procedures are. It's really the concept I want all of you to be thinking about is you want to minimize the time people are within 6 feet of each other. So what we're looking for is really quick, well-executed face-offs where we don't end up in a scrum for very long, okay? So the way this thing starts is have the players, 6 feet away from that face-off dot where you're going to put the ball down. Single-side official, same official as always, will come in, place the ball down on the field. So the ball is going on the field, and get yourself removed down the line, kind of back yourself up along the line. Again, these procedures are meant to move quickly, but stay on that center line, kind of back out and call the players into down. The next call is down. The player should come in quickly. The helper should be positioned so they're looking up through the sticks, checking the neutral zone and top the stop, so that they can quickly see any issues as the two players set. The face-off official that's on the line can make sure that the sticks come down parallel up to, not touching the line, and ready, straight up and down, ready to go. With that, again, your helper can move to wherever he needs to move. The lead official probably make sure you're outside of 6 feet again, and offset as you would like on that center line, and hit, say, set, and then a whistle. Obviously, vary the same thing with whistles. You want them down together. If there's issues and you're having to make a bunch of corrections and the players are not doing it, just illegal procedure, stand them up, illegal procedure, turn over the ball, start play. We want them to get fast. The players will adjust. We don't want them in there. Top to stop is very important, so we don't get the throat pocket to pocket scrums where they're in there very long. so that helper official really makes sure they get that top to stop as they sit down. Any problems, again, blow the whistle, get them up, award the ball, move on. Okay, I'm looking for, check chat real quick. Any major questions about that?
Boyd has a good question about the certification of the coaches. Are we specifically going to add the language, are your players equipped and ready to play according to the rules, including the new commotio cordis chest protector for your goalie?
So I would just, again, what you're comfortable with, we are obligated to ask that they're equipped according to rules. Okay, and to move on. We've done our part to move all that out. If there's any questions, the game will not be played until there's a legally equipped goalie. So if they don't have the proper chest protector, any equipment, just the goalkeeper has to be legally equipped. You have to have one to be able to play the game. Otherwise, the game's canceled.
Now, my understanding is that the powers that be do not want us, if we do a equipment check on a goalie, they don't want us looking under people's shirts. Just tap and make sure they have one, and I don't care about the logo and all that.
Yeah, you don't need to touch it. First of all, we're in COVID. We don't need to be touching the players when we don't need to. So they're legally equipped. Take a look. Provide that player some room and us room, right? Don't risk it all to your health to try to do it. And then what I always think of, a cup check. We're not checking cups. We're not touching things that we don't need to be touching, and especially in COVID. All right?
Okay. Andy Wilson's asking, is there a requirement for the players to wear masks before the game or anytime during the game?
No. So that is according to whatever the school rules are. But there is no and we are not required to wear masks running up and down the field. I think that'll pop up here in a second. If you're more comfortable doing it, you can breathe through a mask good enough, feel free to do it. It's really when you're having communications or you're going to be within somebody.
A question I got at the Catholic High game last night from Catholic High was, are their players allowed to wear gaiters? Because in football, they're not. I think that's maybe because of tackling and grabbing. You might grab some. We don't really have that. And look, I said, no, as far as I'm aware, they can wear a gaiter. We're not looking for that.
Again, I do not see a problem with that. There probably could be a problem with that, but it's very defendable and it's for safety. The safety of the health due to COVID. So if they want to wear it, they can do it. It does talk specifically. I have read up about the clear masks, to kind of protect the helmet and things and that, but I haven't heard anything about gaiters not being required. It does talk about players having those on the sideline, but nothing about them playing with it during the game. So the answer right now is, it's okay. If they will cover, it'll cover their necklaces. There you go, boy. Reporting fouls at table, really our normal procedure should work well. If you go to about the wing line and you're well distanced, you can put out whatever the call is. The idea here is you don't want people in the box in between you while you're spraying the call to the table. So, just keep people clear from you. Make sure you maintain your 6 nice big signals, and we move on from that. If you have to go to the box, you have to pull up your gaiter, have your conversations. Clear the box. You don't want a whole lot of people around you while you're having those discussions. Again, one-on-one conversations.
Steve Kaplan's asking if the league has a COVID guideline. I talked to Dave Gold about that, their commissioner. The schools have their own. The schools are in different areas. They're going with the schools and what's going on in their communities. They don't have a document like we have covering of what we expect our officials to do before and during a game. They don't have anything in writing of what the individual teams are required to do before and after before and during games.
Yeah, our expectations are you're going to come to the field during your pregame. You get out of your car, put on your mask, And while you're doing your pregame, maintain 6 feet. You're generally the way I envision it, you're in your mask to the maximum extent possible. You walk as you walk on the field, your masks are on. While you're doing as much of the pregame, keep the mask on as much as you can. When you're running in the game, you can bring that thing down while you're participating in the game. Stick checks. Wear face covers during stick checks. Attempt to socially distance each other. Obviously, you're doing more than just stick checks during breaks. While you're doing stick checks, you're discussing all the normal things that we normally talk about. How's the game going? Where we are in timeouts. All that stuff still continues, but just give yourself more space. And again, always as a reminder, keep your heads on a swivel, watching the whole field while you do that. Obviously, you can wear during hydration breaks and things like that. After the game, leave in the field, get your mask on again. If anybody does find out that they have, after a game, you pop positive for COVID, to get that information to Dustin and Bill so they can get it to the league. Within 48 hours. Basically, things could change throughout the season, guys. We need to be flexible. The intention here is not to make you kind of overly crazy, super safe, like you're in a hospital ICU. Conduct the game, manage it amongst the crew, keep yourself safe, and kind of move on. Provide a little bit more distance with the coaches. Probably need to give the coaches a little bit more leeway as they try to get your attention, to talk to you, that kind of stuff. But while you're having those conversations with the coaches, the mask should be up. If you're on the field, your back's to the coach while you watch the play. It's the normal procedure there. I hear you, coach, and you're listening, but you're, try to maintain your 6 feet and out facing away from the field.
Steve's asking, are the coaches required to wear masks? They're not required by us to wear masks, and we don't police what goes on their sidelines. And for our safety, we just, if we're around people, particularly without a mask, just, stay clear of them, stay away from them.
Right. Yeah, we do not have any obligation or requirement, or should we be having, managing what they're doing. If you're having a conversation with the coach and you're not comfortable, back away, get your mask off, or you could always ask the coach to, hey, coach, can you put your mask on? If he says no, then okay, we're not having this conversation, or I'm moving further away. Okay, any other questions on the COVID? So again, thank you to the board, Bill and Rob Wyman for getting those into us. There was a lot of persistence and patience involved in trying to get the rule waivers down to basically the rule book. And the COVID, I think, is a good start. As things happen throughout the season, you can expect us to send out any notes and updates as they occur. So.
I will make a point that across the country, different states where the sport is sanctioned, different states are doing different things. I don't know which state's doing exactly what, but some states are doing away with face-offs for the high school season, and they're just letting the team that got scored on take the ball either out of the crease or at the midline. Some are only facing off in the beginning of the first quarter and the third quarter. There's all kinds of different things going on nationwide. Again, talking to Dave Gold about that, I asked him specifically, were they entertaining any significant changes to how the game is played? And he said no, that the teams are good with playing a regular game with these precautions that we're implementing. All right, Lux, do you have any particular officiating points of emphasis that you want to go over?
Close, but really the big thing, the safety thing that you're there for is those big hits. Don't let those go. My concern and the concern around NCAA, everything now, is the contact around the head. We need to be very cognizant, paying close attention to shots in the head. At the high school level, anything up there is immediately 2 minutes locked or 3 minutes locked. and potential ejection. Think about college football. Obviously, they're bigger, they're hitting faster and harder, but any helmet-to-helmet contact is an ejection. So, well, not any, in the situations where there's any kind of targeting, it's an ejection. So in lacrosse, we should not be afraid of those injections. So when you think about that, when you have anything that's hitting high into the head, the basic is a 2-minute. But when you start thinking about more, if for example, we have a big hit to the head, you go, okay, well, what would be a 3-minute if I don't call that? How much worse would that have to be? Or an ejection. If a guy kind of wipes out a kid up in the head, and what more would he had to do to get the 3-minute ejection? Okay. So we will support you with those calls. We may make adjustments and have discussions, but while you're on the field, protect the head and all that's around there. So head and neck. That's my biggest concern is the big hits.
Okay, regarding the 10-second count, the Kahoot quiz that we're going to have at the end of the meeting, which, by the way, has a $25 cash prize, is going to be all on the 2010 clearing counts. So that'll be a refresher right there. All right, thanks, Lux. Dustin, you want to walk us through Arbiter and our officials' continuing education at U.S. Lacrosse?
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about before is just kind of piggybacking off of what Lux was discussing as far as the team areas, the coaches' areas, how we're extending that an extra 10 yards. So if you're referencing it to a football field, the coaches' area begins at the 40-yard line, and it now will be extended into the 15-yard line. So previously stated from the 40 to the 25, 10 extra yards going to the 15. It's the same thing they did for football. So basically the sidelines for a football game, 15-yard line to 15-yard line across the board. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to present my screen. So for today's Rules Clinic, with the things that I'm going to be discussing as far as the Arbiter and just some housekeeping in our association and just requirements with U.S. Lacrosse and some things that we're looking towards into the future here. First off, this would be an opportunity for you now. Download the app, or you can use it on your computer. Kahoot, we're going to be doing a questionnaire after this particular presentation here. So Kahoot.com, go ahead and download it. So for LOLA, one of the things that we need to do now, probably should have been taking care of this already, as we're a couple of weeks away from the beginning of the season. We want to make sure that we check our uniform and our gear. One of the things we want to keep in mind is that we're supposed to have all black shoes. As far as the gear, we want to make sure that we have the tools to do the job, so particularly a timer. Especially going back to the 2010 counts, we're going to be using our timers a lot. Make sure you have your flags. Make sure you have your information cards so where you can keep track of the score. Make sure you're wearing a black watch that has a countdown timer. Okay. Make sure that we have the tools to do the job. W-9s. There's going to be a lot of schools now that are going to be requiring us to submit some W-9s. I'm going to need a copy of a W-9, whether you download an app that you can fill out electronically. I'm going to show you a picture of what that app looks like. Or if you do it the traditional way of printing it out, signing it, scanning it, and then emailing it to me. Either way, I'm going to keep all these on file. And if a team is going to request W-9s, I'll have that to submit to them. Okay. Team blocks. Each official has an option to exercise blocking 2 teams that they do not want to officiate. You do not have to if you don't want to. However, you have the ability to do so if you may. And then just social media. We created a website. I'm sure most of you have seen it by now, laxrevs.com. And then we also have a Facebook page. So check us out. If you take any pictures, send it to me. The information that we're going to be keeping updated on our website, the rule waivers, which we don't have much for this year. The COVID-19, all that's going to be uploaded onto the website. So if you want to check it out on the Arbiter, where Lux is going to put it, or if you want to check it out on the website, you'll have access multiple ways. This is the app, W9 form PDF. If you download this app, you can electronically sign it and you can email it as a PDF file to me, and I'll be able to store it in my computer and then send it out to the teams that are going to need it. So with the Arbiter this season, a lot of teams, mostly in the Shreveport area, are switching to Arbiter Pay. I think Caddo Parish, I think all the public schools in Caddo Parish are going to Arbiter Pay. I think it'd be a good idea to create an account. Most of officials that have that officiate multiple sports, we probably have our account created already. If you need any assistance with that, I can help you out. However, the website would be arbiterpay.com, and then you would just have to sign up as an official. Availability and blocks. If you have dates that you are unavailable to work, please go ahead in the Arbiter and update those blocks accordingly. It seems like every year that this is an issue. I assign officials to a game, they're not blocked, and then they decline the game because they're unavailable. Well, if you decline, if you block your schedule accordingly, when I make my assignments, I'll see that you have a block in the system. Okay, so just be kind of courteous of that. If you got a specific work schedule where you're going to be unavailable, go ahead and put those dates in for me. And then our updated personal information. Let's get our current address. I don't think that's a problem for most. But if wherever you are living, wherever you are going to be officiating out of, I'd like for you to have your updated address. I know this probably is going to affect some of our younger officials who may have been born and raised in one area and are going to college in another area. Some of the addresses are in their hometown, but I would need it to be in the current town in which they're going to school. And then a picture. I'd like for everybody in here to update their personal information by putting a picture. We have a lot of new names, a lot of new faces. And whenever an official clicks on his crew to see who he's going to be working with, obviously we'll see each other in the stripes, but it'd be nice to have a picture so we can know who we're expecting to see. U.S. lacrosse. So we've been talking about this a lot as a board. We want to make sure that we're doing our best to follow the expectations set by U.S. lacrosse, and we want to do the right thing. We want to make sure that all of our officials are certified U.S. lacrosse officials. Simply paying your dues or renewing your membership to U.S. lacrosse does not particularly make you a certified official. Okay, we want to do this for all our levels 1, 2, and 3. And there are some requirements that you have to meet in order to obtain that certification. We're going to go through those in a minute here. A lot of the things that can be found in continuing education on e-learning. So when you log into U.S. lacrosse, you should have access to that particular portal. And take initiative to get better. They provide us with a lot of resources. These videos that they give us access to, just watch them. I know I take a lot of trips, road trips. You could pull it up on your phone, let it play while you're driving. It's strongly recommended by the board. It's not a requirement yet, but as far as the totem pole is concerned, when I'm going to make assignments and if I have two officials that are neck and neck and I see one official who's continuing his education, I see one who's not continuing his education, I'm likely going to pick the person who is continuing their education. And we will be discussing this in the future for making this a requirement for all our officials in the 2022 season. So my suggestion would be to go ahead and start now with that, getting that taken care of. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you where to go to U.S. lacrosse to access all this information here. So if you go to uslacrosse.org, select officials, click on become an official. You scroll down. You can see here official certification. And you click on that. It'll go through the checklist. You can see here on the right-hand side of the screen, level 1 checklist. You click on that. PDF file is going to open up, and here are your level 1 officials requirements. Okay. First thing, you have to be a current U.S. Lacrosse member. 2, complete the online rules and penalty course. Most of you have done that already. Attend classroom training. So classroom training can be all the Zoom meetings that we've had in the past, whether Google Meet, Zoom, whatever we're using. The film studies that we use with the Webinar Ninja. One of the things we have to do better as a board, as an association, particularly on my part, is we have to make sure that we're doing field evaluations. So expect to see more of that. Me being at your games, doing some field evaluations, Bill doing some field evaluations, Lux doing field evaluations. And then you can see here, pass either the NFHS rules test with an 80% on the U.S. Lacrosse Central Hub. The reason why it says either is because on the next couple of slides, it's probably just a typo here. Some are asking that you take the NCAA test, but nonetheless, level 2 checklist. Same requirements here, pass a level 2 field evaluation. This one here says pass either the NFHS or NCAA test with a 90% on the U.S. Lacrosse Central Hub. And then your level 3 checklist. Pass a level 3 field evaluation. The same concept with the test, pass the NFHS test or the NCAA rules test with the 90% or better. So then looking at here, your annual recertification, I wanted to show you this for level 3. The majority of us are level 3. You can see here, officials at every level must complete recertification requirements each season to prove their knowledge of officiating, stay current on the rules and changes, and continue in the development as an official. So to be certified level 3, it goes through the same thing basically in the checklist, just a different diagram of it. Okay. So as a board, we're going to be looking into holding you accountable for your continuing your education. Another thing in the U.S. Lacrosse e-learning, I'm going to log back in here. Top left-hand corner of the screen, click on e-learning. You can go to catalog. You take the long route. And you can see here, we're going to go to officials, number 2. You can see here we have, let's go to men's game officials. And you can see here, we have level 1, boys officials, annual learning. We have level 2 and 3, boys officials, annual learning. So if you're a brand new official, you may want to check this particular course out. U.S. Lacrosse has just recently updated their curriculum, and a lot of these webinars that you're going to see here have just been uploaded. But you can see for new officials, it says take the boys lacrosse rules course online. For a level 1 official, you have these different webinars here to enroll in, and then taking your tests. Okay. Same concept. For the level 2 and 3 boys officials annual learning, you see here they both have 13 courses. Same thing, most of you have already done your online rules course. And then you can see they've uploaded these different webinars here. Closer look at personal and technical fouls, penalty enforcement, professionalism, game management, communication, 2 and 3 person mechanics. And then you can see here We have the 2021 Boys NFHS Rules Interpretation session. And they have the youth lacrosse as well. And then we have our exams to take. As far as officiating just high school lacrosse for LOLA, we do not require you to take a youth rules exam. We also do not require you to watch the youth boys rules interpretation session. What I will suggest, though, is that if we're going to be cooperating with Mid-South and we may potentially be officiating youth lacrosse games, go ahead and do it. Watch the rules interpretation session, take all of the tests, just continuing your education and being more prepared. And same thing with two-person mechanics, positioning and mechanics. If you're going to work a youth game, highly likely you're going to be working two-person mechanics. With the LHSLL, the vast majority of our games will be in three-person mechanics. There's only going to be a few games that may potentially be two-man mechanics, particularly the freshman 4 games that we have. There's going to be some running time, round-robin games, and then if we have any tournament-style games, we do two-person mechanics. So also kind of navigating through the system here. You can see here the rules course and rules webinars. One of the requirements is that you attend the annual rules clinic. Well, part of the rules clinic, we would typically show the rules interpretation webinar. So my expectation is for everybody, where are we at here, 2021. My expectation is for everybody to watch the 2021 Boys NFHS Rules Interpretation webinar. Once you complete the course, it's going to give you a certification. It's going to give you a little certificate. I'd like to see that. I'd like everybody to forward me that certificate. And then let's see. If we go back a couple of tabs, you see here annual rules exams. You got boys and girls who want to deal with the boys rules exams. When you take any of the exams, if you're not interested in doing youth, let me know. However, just for satisfying the requirements for LOLA, passing the 2021 Boys High School Rules exam, when you take this exam, it's going to show that it's completed. It's going to give you your certificate and give you a passing score. U.S. Lacrosse is going to generate an email that's going to show you what your score was. I don't need to see the certificate. Just forward me that email that shows what your score is, and that'll be sufficient enough. Okay. Let's see. Arbiter pay, I'm going to show you this real quick. So when you go to arbiterpay.com, click sign up today. You will click as a sports official, event worker, and click next. And this is step 2 of 7, but you're going to fill out all your information. It will require you to type in your social security number. It will ask for your bank information. So the way it works is teams that are using Arbiter Pay, they're going to put money into your Arbiter Pay account. It'll be your responsibility to get that money transferred from your Arbiter Pay account to your bank account. I use this very, very seldom. Probably have used it maybe less than a handful of times, maybe 5, 6, 7 times. And so there's a certain setting that you can click to where it doesn't charge you a transaction fee. It might not be an immediate transaction. It might take a couple of days, but nonetheless, you will get your money. And I think that everybody should utilize this particular tool because the teams are going to it. Okay. Before I go to the Kahoot, does anybody else have any questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second here.
Dustin, I'll make one quick point. You were talking about putting your blocks on Arbiter and how that's a perennial problem. People turning back a game. So I got a wedding. I can't, but they're not blocked. Along those same lines, please be courteous. And when you're contacted by us for information or an RSVP or something, just quickly respond to text and emails, and do your best to not ignore them. If you can't give an answer, say, we'll get back to you. Just respond to communications where we're looking for information from you, or an RSVP or something like that.
Thanks, Bill. Okay.
Gabe in Shreveport. Hello, Gabe. He's asking, are there traditional games of the week when games are played? Are they mostly weekdays or weekends? I analyzed that a couple of years ago, and about half of our league games were on Saturdays, and the other half were spread Monday through Sunday, not on Saturdays. And in Baton Rouge, we have them on Friday nights, in Shreveport, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It varies. But most of the games, the biggest day of the week is Saturday.
Yeah, just to kind of help out with that.
This is Bill. This is Brian. In Shreveport, we do have a little bit of a traditional schedule on Tuesday, Thursday, and then the bulk of the games on Saturday. So Gabe's in Shreveport, so that's what he's going to be looking at mostly.
For those of you who may be new to navigating through the Arbiter, real quick before we go into Kahoot, I'm going to sign out of my admin account. I'm going to just switch my view. So you can see here, I am on the Arbiter. If you click on schedule, it'll show your schedule. It'll give you the date, the time, the site, the home team, the away team, and how much money you're going to be paid. So if you have any travel fees that are going to be included in that, it should reflect here. But for those of you who need to kind of look at the master schedule, you can click on master schedule, and you can see all of the games that are uploaded in the Arbiter. So if you need to block out some dates, you want to check out and see if there's going to be any days, games on that particular day, you can go ahead and check it out. Okay. All right. Go into Kahoot here. And so just for competition's sake, the winner of this Kahoot contest here, this questionnaire, is going to receive a $25 cash prize. So let's get everybody logged in. Let's get everybody participating. Let's see who could win that $25.
Yeah, if you know your 2010 clearing count rules, $25 is on the line. Be quick on the draw and win $25.
Here we go. The 20-second clearing count begins when?
You want to read them, Dustin?
I think it'd be better for them to read it.
Just read it. Okay.
I'll read the question. When the defense gains possession of the defensive half of the field.
Yeah, we had a couple of people said when the ball crosses the center line, that's when the 20-second count ends. That's a plane. When the ball crosses the plane of the center line, it does not have to be in possession. If it is in possession, that still satisfy it, or the loose ball crossing the plane, either on the ground or in the air. It does not have to touch anything in the offensive end, just needs to cross the plane. That's when we turn our timer off.
The 20-second count is kept by who? Single side official.
The single side is responsible for the 20-second clearing count and the 10-second clearing count. That's what the single side is going to spend a lot of his time doing, swinging his arm and running his timer.
I didn't want to give that away I thought maybe there might be another question.
Yeah, it could be. It's all right. We'll see who's paying attention.
Jake Mayfield taking the lead. All right, here we go. True or false? The 20-second clearing count is satisfied when a loose ball breaks the plane of the center line.
Hey, Dustin,
Yes.
can you just read the options? Because I can't figure it out.
Okay, true or false?
Yeah, I know. Which one's true? Which one's false?
Blue is true and red is false. Blue is true.
Okay,
Red is false.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the next one, just read the options.
Yeah, I'll read them. I'll read them for them.
Okay.
I'll try not to disturb anybody.
True or false? The 20-second clearing count continues if the clearing team is offended by a loose ball technical foul. Play on.
Blue is true.
True.
Red is false.
Red false. So that is false. 20-second clearing count does not continue if the clearing team is offended by a loose ball technical foul.
Resets.
It's a learning opportunity there, guys. Yeah, if there's a technical foul, play on during the 20-second count. When the clearing team regains the ball, or when you restart, if they don't gain the ball, you reset your timer, they get a fresh 20. Because the foul that occurred on them very well may have interfered with their ability to get the ball over the midline, and it may have held them back. So we're not going to let that time run. We're going to give them a fresh start because they got fouled.
That assumes it's not a flag down, though, right?
That's right. This is a well, it's going to be a loose ball technical. Loose ball technical. Say a loose ball technical is going to be a play on, not a flag down. That's a flag down's a different situation.
Yeah.
So a loose ball technical, i.e., play on, when they regain possession or you blow the whistle and restart, you give them a fresh 20. Having said that, I don't think I've ever remembered to do that.
Oh, Glenn, got a big change in lead here.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Quiz. Team A has possession in the defensive half of the field. Coach A calls a timeout. Does A get a fresh 20-second count? Red, yes, fresh 20 seconds. Blue, no. Estimate clearing count time remaining. So, yes, the fresh 20-second count. Team A has possession defensive half in Federation. Team in possession calls a timeout. They do get a free 20-second clearing count in the defensive half of the field.
Yeah, think about it, guys. There's no way you can know where your timer is, even if you wanted to. You would not be able to continue the 20-second count where it left off. So a timeout gets them a fresh 20-second.
All right. Big loser. I like that. All right. Next question. Quiz. The 10-second clearing count begins when A, loose ball breaks the plane of the center line. Blue, offensive team gains possession in the goal area. Yellow, offensive team gains initial possession in offensive half. The 10-second clearing count begins when the offensive team gains initial possession in the offensive half of the field. So a lot of you put on there a loose ball breaks the plane of the center line. Now, that ends the 20-second clearing count. But a loose ball over the center line, you do not start counting 10 seconds for the team to get in the attack area. They have to scoop the ball up get possession, and then the 10-second count begins.
Right. The 10-second clearing count does not start until the clearing player has possession across the midfield line. A loose ball across the midfield line does not start it. And often, as the clearing guy is fast breaking and running, right when he steps over with possession, you're going to start your 10-second count because he has possession across the midline. But sometimes that ball will go over loose, and you withhold your count until the clearing team gains possession. Of course, if the other team gets possession, we're going to do a reset and start 20 going back the other way.
Correct. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, Lux has jumped up. He's got some fast fingers. All right. Next question. Quiz. The 10-second count is kept by red, the lead, blue, the single side, yellow, the trail. That's why I didn't go any further with it, Bill.
I know. We'll see who's paying attention.
Yeah.
or who has short-term memory loss?
Okay, so single side has the 20-second count to the midline and then the 10-second count into the attack area. All right. Next question. Quiz. The 10-second count is satisfied when red, the ball breaks the plane of the goal area. Blue, the ball breaks the plane of the midline. Yellow, the ball or player in possession touches the goal area. Okay, so we got split hairs here. The ball or the player. So if a loose ball goes into the attack area, that is satisfying the clearing count. So team A clearing. Well, I don't want to go any further. I think we have a question on that coming up. But nonetheless, the ball or the player in possession touches the goal area. So just keep that in mind. A loose ball can satisfy the clearing count.
Okay, so the thing to remember here, though, it's a little bit esoteric. The 20-second count is a plane. Crossing the plane in the air stops it. But the 10-second count has got a touch. So if they're trying to satisfy the 10-second count and they throw a pass from one alley across the goal area all the way to the other alley, and the ball never touches the grass or the line, that does not satisfy. So the 10-second clearing count is satisfied by a touch, and the 20-second count is satisfied by crossing the plane. Both a little bit different there. Why? Correct. I don't know, but that's the way it is.
Glenn jumped Lux. All right. Josh has got a 5 correct answer streak here. Question number 9. A team A is under a 10-second count. With 2 seconds left, Coach A calls a timeout. What's the mechanic on the restart? Red, restart with 2 seconds to gain the goal area. Blue, timeout satisfies the 10-second clearing count. Yellow, team A given a fresh 10-second count. The key thing about this is, yes, they are still under the 10-second count. They have not satisfied the clearing count. They have not touched it into the box yet. So if they call a timeout outside of the attack area, we will give them a fresh 10-second count to indeed get their touch.
Now, if they were not under a 10-second count and they had already satisfied their 10-second count on that trip down and they're outside the box and call a timeout, they would not have a count on when we restarted play.
Correct. No change here. Glenn's still in the lead.
Look at Josh up there.
Yeah. A1 is under a 10-second count and passes to A2, who is behind the midline in his defensive half. What is the ruling? Red, 10-second count continues. Blue, over and back, immediate turnover. Yeah, so the player in possession of the ball has under a 10-second count, he could play double dutch on that midline and not be considered over and back. So remember, the over and back rules do not apply until we have satisfied the 10-second clearing count. Okay, like I said, he can go back and forth over that midline, and he's not going to be considered as committing a foul for over and back.
Right, and that's probably the main reason why in high school, when the clearing team gains the attack area or the goal area, by the way, for the newer officials, the attack area and the goal area, those are synonymous terms. That's the big square that the crease is down in the middle of, excluding the alleys and above the restraining line. But that's the reason why we say he's in with our hand up and point to let the other officials know the 10-second count has been satisfied. Now over and back is in play. If the ball squirts out, propelled by the offense, over and back is in play. If you don't know if they've made a touch yet, you don't know the status of over and back. Is that in play or not? Because if they have not made a touch, if they have not gotten a touch in and the ball squirts out and across the midline, it's not over and back.
Okay. All right. Glenn still in the lead.
Josh, you can make a comeback. You still have we still have 7 questions left.
Okay. Quiz. A gets a touch. Loose ball crosses the midline. Last touch by B1. A2 gains possession in defensive half. What's the ruling? Red, over and back. Blue, new 10-second count begins. Yellow, new 20-second count begins. Term gets a touch, meaning he has satisfied the clearing count. I had to adjust some of the terms in that question there, Bill.
Okay.
Okay. A1 gets a touch, so now we have over and back restrictions applied. A loose ball, last touched by B, crosses the midline. So we are not going to have over and back because the ball was last touched by the defense. So when A gains possession in the defensive half of the field, they'll get a new 20-second count. The single side is going to turn his timer on, reset the count.
We had that in the game last night. The offense threw the ball towards the midline. It was dropped. It was rolling to the midline. An offensive and defensive player were going after the ball, and the defensive guy nicked the ball right before it went over, so it was not over and back because it was last barely touched by the defense.
Okay. Any change? Lux has jumped up. He's back in the leader spot. True or false? The 10-second clearing count is reset if the offensive team is offended by a loose ball, technical foul, or play on. Blue, true. Red, false. Okay, so this is true. So a couple of things, probably some words that had to be left out because of the length of the question, but the 10-second clearing count, the offense has to have possession of the ball in their offensive half of the field for the 10-second clearing count to be on in the first place. Okay, so we have a loose ball technical foul outside of the attack area during the 10-second clearing count. Same thing as the 20-second clearing count. It will reset after a play on. Quiz. A1 satisfies the 20-second clearing count. A loose ball crossed the midline. It's loose in the offensive half, out of the box. Which count is on? Red, none. Blue, 10 seconds to gain the goal area. Yellow, 10 seconds to gain possession. So that was part of the question previously stated. A loose ball crosses the midline. The 20-second count has been satisfied. Now the ball is loose in the offensive half of the field. It's out of the attack area, so the count has not been started because nobody has possession of the ball. So it's not going to start until somebody scoops it up and gains possession, or the offensive team, Team A. When Team A gains possession in their offensive half of the field, that's when the 10-second count will begin.
If Team B gets it, the 20-second count for them going the other way. I think
Correct.
The point here is if the 20-second count is satisfied by a loose ball going over, we do not have a 10-second clearing count yet, and we have no count yet, and there is no time limit on how long this no man's land ball on the ground can go. And they can sometimes go for a while. You just have to remember when the offensive guy does finally get it, you got to remember to start your 10 or start your 20 if you're going the other way. So there is a indefinite period of time that potentially can occur when there is no count going on. And you'll hear coaches saying, who's counting? But there is that no man's land zone that it sometimes does occur that we have no count.
So just from a mechanic standpoint on this, one of the things that we tend to do as an association is we're really quick to yell possession when a team scoops the ball up in an attempt to gain possession. And when they make that scoop, sometimes the ball comes flying out in the air and nobody had possession of it. Same concept with this. You may see this loose ball in the offensive half of the field, and you may see a defenseman scoop it, but doesn't really have possession of it, and the ball still comes flying out, and you may turn your timer on mistakenly, or you may give the reset signal to your officials. So be sure that we have clear possession before we start that count. Okay.
Casey's a little confused by the wording on it. I think it was probably written a little differently when I wrote it, but the bottom line is that the condition that exists is that the ball A1 has satisfied the 20-second clearing count when a loose ball crossed the center line. So that's what caused the 20-second count to be satisfied. So we have a loose ball in the offensive half, not in the attack area.
Okay, so I think some of the terms that was left out was team A's clearing. So when they're clearing, they have possession of it. and then the loose ball coming from the team A clear crosses the midline, which satisfies that 20-second count here.
Yeah, I'll read it as written. It says Team A. Oh, go ahead. Oh, let's see. The way I wrote it was Team A has satisfied the 20-second count when the ball loose crossed the midline plane, and the ball remains loose in their offensive half outside the goal area. Which count is on? And the answer is none.
Okay. Here we go. Quiz. When the single side starts the 10-second count, he should red, swing his arm horizontally once per second, blue, swing his arm and count verbally, yellow, count the 10 seconds silently in his head.
Is anybody under the opinion that we should be counting verbally? We've had two people answer that, but that's never been the mechanic as I've learned it. And I don't think that's a mechanic really anywhere to count it down or let the players know where you are. They should have a feel for that. And we're not in the habit of telling them where we are in the count. Josh is back. We got a new official, brand new official, did his first game last night. He's in third place, y'all. Come on, you experienced guys, you level threes. Pick it up.
All right, here we go. Quiz. A defending player, including the goalkeeper, may not remain in the crease in possession longer than red 4 seconds, blue 5 seconds, yellow 10 seconds. Good. Everybody got that one right. 4 seconds. 4 seconds.
Good.
The 5 seconds is the one where we allow the goalie that 5 seconds to get back to the crease. Lux and Glenn battling it out. 2 more questions. Who counts those 4 seconds? Red, the new lead. Blue, the single side. Yellow, the new trail. The single side official should never have a failure to advance with somebody in the crease with possession of the ball. Leave that to the new trail. It would be the old lead, new trail. So I can see how that may have mixed somebody up. It would be the old lead, so it would be the person who was in the lead. But once the team B gains possession of the ball, he now immediately switches from lead to trail official.
Yeah, if you're the old lead, you should be standing right there by the crease. You're in perfect position to see what the goalie's doing.
All right. I believe this is our final question here. Glenn, you have to have a quick finger.
This is going to be the moneymaker here, guys.
Here we go. Quiz. A1's clearing. The loose ball crosses the midline. It's still loose, but the ball returned to A's defensive half. A regains. Which count is on? Red, none. Blue, 10 seconds to gain the go area. Yellow, a new 20-second count. Okay. So when the loose ball crosses the midline, when A1 is clearing, the 20-second count has been satisfied. The ball's still loose, okay? It hasn't touched the attack area, but the loose ball gets kicked into A's defensive half. So we don't have over and back. We don't have a 10-second count that's been started yet. We don't have any counts yet. So when A regains possession of the ball, they get a new 20-second count to get to the midline.
That's right. That was the moneymaker. Split them up. All right.
In third place, Jay Mayfield.
Jay. Good,
Second
Jay.
place, Glenn. First place, Lux.
Our chief referee wins the $25.
Who is the biggest
It would
loser?
be shameful if I didn't win.
True that. Yeah.
All right.
Second place is a nice round number, Glenn. 0.
My wife just ready to go buy gumbo.
All right, guys. That was good. I had fun with that. I hope people learned something, and I'm real proud of my protege, Josh Armand, for getting close to the podium in his first season. That's awesome. So the last thing on our agenda is just to open the floor for any questions, if we can clear up anything for anybody. And after that, we will adjourn. Does anybody have anything pressing that hasn't been addressed or answered in the last hour and a half or so?
Rob raised his hand.
If you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions and maybe consider it a dialogue. Some people will be interested. I'm certainly interested. Bill, between last year's agreement and with the league and this year's agreement, what is different?
Rob, nothing is different. I made an attempt to renegotiate the blocking system. Our board has met and we had our druthers about that. That was interrupted by the push by some of the league members to allow any team to use any LOA, and that caused some disruption in the flow of things and communication in the league, and that wasn't settled until January the 15th or so, the week of January 15th, maybe January the 11th. And when after that, when I did have discussions with Dave Gold about that, his position was, look, we've just been through this storm. The last year's season is viewed as being real short. He preferred just to stick with the contract as unchanged. And we agreed to readdress that for the next season. So we did not successfully get any changes to that section of the agreement. So really nothing has changed. The main thing is that the league games, all of the league home games will be assigned by the LOLA assigner. And I think that's the main thing that we came out with unscathed.
Hey, thanks, Bill. I have another question for Dustin, just for clarification purposes. These youth games, any other games that are coming from Mid-South, just so I understand it, you're going to be assigning those. If they contact us and maybe ask us if we're available, we just say yes, and then you'll get it. Or is everything coming from you?
Okay, I will not be assigning youth games. If you are wanting to make yourself available to do youth games, I will tell Rich, and Rich will contact you.
Now, Dustin, I understood. I didn't. That's not my understanding. My understanding is that you will work that out and you will notify our members of youth games. My understanding is that the communication between a LOLA member will be between you and the LOLA member, and the communication between a Mid-South member will be between their assigner and their member after you and their assigner have worked out what's agreeable or what works out the best. Now,
I'm not going to be assigning the actual game unless he says, "Here's a game. I'll put it in the arbiter and I'll assign it." But we haven't really discussed as far as me assigning any youth game. To my knowledge, I would not be assigning any youth lacrosse games.
But availability and you blessing, if you will, that official is indeed free, I'm not going to need him, and he is available, should be coming from you. You don't want to go looking 2 weeks before a game and see that somebody has accepted a youth game and you knew nothing about it.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, so the point I was making, if Boyd is available to do a youth game, Rich is going to contact me. "Hey, Dustin, do you have anybody available?" "Yes, I have Boyd Guy who's available." "Okay, Rich, you need to contact Boyd to let him know where he needs to be." That's what I meant.
Okay.
And speaking of that, before everybody starts jumping off of here, I will be assigning games on a bi-weekly basis. And it may be even a shorter of a time frame than that, just with the possibility of games being canceled, a lot of changes being made to the schedule. So what I'm going to avoid is trying to assign months in advance to where I have you on the schedule to do a game, and then come 2 or 3 days before the game, 48 hours before a game, I have to make a bunch of changes. So the one thing I want to avoid doing is having to make a bunch of changes in the arbiter. So with that being said, today is February 6th. We have on February 20th. So be expecting to see some assignments come out this evening or tomorrow. So make sure you have your availabilities and your blocks up to date, because you will be seeing assignments starting to go out. So the key terms for this season, guys, is going to be patience and flexibility. Expect games to be canceled. Expect assignments to be canceled. And that's just the nature of this beast of officiating. And so if I remove you from a game, if I make a bunch of changes, just keep in mind that it may not be due to your capabilities of officiating. It just may be how it works out. Okay.
All right. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up? While we're waiting for people to think about that, guys, you should, especially you newer officials, you should have read that rule book probably twice by now. You're responsible for knowing all that minute stuff in there. Get at US Lacrosse and watch all of those early beginner videos. Go to the Georgia Lacrosse Officials Association, has some very good first year training videos that are done by Greg Height. He's a high school teacher there, and he does a good presentation. So the more you watch, the better you'll be. All right. I don't hear anything else. So unless somebody speaks up right now, I am going to adjourn this meeting. And thank you so much for joining, guys. It went 2 hours. I was thinking an hour and a half. 2 hours is not bad. Normally it would have been like 4 if we were chatting and drinking donuts and in person, more demonstration type stuff. But this virtual stuff is what it is, and that's what we're going to deal with. Good luck throughout the season, and thank you all for your time, your education, and your dedication to lacrosse officiating.